Alright, moving on. Welcome back to Beric Saga. This time we are going to be going into a much easier map than the previous one, for which I am duly grateful, and that is Sidequest 9.1. But first we need to deal with the usual vast amount of cutscenes after a main mission. So the letter from Lynette has finally arrived for this chapter, and unfortunately it's a bit grim. Reese's dad has been killed, and that's not great, so it looks like the Western Front is collapsing. But on the plus side, we get the Tulsa Circlet, which is an item for Reese only that prevents him from being crit, and that's going to come in pretty handy, I'm sure. Next up, we have some permanent recruitments. We have Axel first, followed by Esteban's little chat, in which he frees Sophie from a jail cell. But after that, it is time for the first promotion of this game, and surprisingly enough, it's the Lord getting promoted first in this run, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Unfortunately, in this game, the promotion sequence is not forced, so we don't get to see his amazing promotion bonuses, but now that he's promoted, we do finally get Larentia permanently recruited as well. Next we head off to the Forge. The Soma is not the only long-awaited material that I picked up on the last map. We also managed to get a Platinum, and that allows us to forge Reese's rapier into a Kolishmard, which is essentially a rapier with the Brave effect. Then of course we do the Liquid Magic for Enid, but I'm not going to use that straight away because she currently only has 3 magic. And despite the fact that I'm well aware that stat boosters ignore the brackets, I'm still completely paranoid about that. So I'm going to wait until she has 4 magic before I actually use the stat booster on her. So the cutscene that gave us the Soma also went a bit more into Adel's love story with Lumiere, who's the alchemist. And it's interesting to me that a civilian request advances a unit's personal storyline like this, because at this point I'm guessing that I missed out on Sherlock's personal story by failing to complete a previous civilian request, which I'm kind of disappointed about, really, but I guess I'll have to play this game again once I'm done with this run. This upcoming map is going to be the wondrous debut of Burrows, who, as we already know, is a ballistician, and this is really great because he has 7 range, and that means he can attack from a really long distance away in complete safety. However, there are some limitations to him. As I suspected in a previous video, there is a mechanic in this game where ballistae have to rotate where they're aiming, and they only have a small angle of attack. And it takes an entire turn to rotate, and that has to happen before moving, so Burrows has to do absolutely nothing at all if he needs to change the direction that he's aiming. But he does still have 7 range, and that definitely has some significant uses in upcoming maps. So, this map is a pretty straightforward siege map, where the siege point is unoccupied, so all I need to do is fly Larentia over there to take it, and complete the map in short order. So in practice, this map's real objective is once again to gain as much experience as possible before having to finish the map. But I have a couple of units here who are not training projects. Axel's sole role in this map is to visit the house near the starting point for a vulnerary. There is another house in the upper left of the map, but the item you get out of there vanishes at the end of this map regardless of what you do, so there's absolutely no point in me going for it. Meanwhile, Christine is here to take away Ruby's sign-on stallion, and that's so we can use her horse lover skill to get it up to slightly higher health over the next couple of chapter changes. The enemies in this map are largely lance fighters with the Doru lances that I talked about in the last map, but now there's a fair number of them, so they can get a decent defense boost from their formation. And they're also stuck behind some fortifications that I need to break through to reach them. Fortunately, because Larentia is the one going for the objective, we don't have to do much more than break through the outer parts, and then pick off some kills as the enemies feed through the holes that we make. The story of this map is about advances in ballista technology that are being made by the Empire, and the fruits of those advances was rolled out at the start of turn 2. This is a special enemy ballista, and I don't want to be anywhere near its range. But the great thing is that I can break down the barricades and fight the enemies as they come through without actually having to enter its range. And Laurentia is going to skirt around its range, so she's never going to be at risk from it either. I can only imagine how much more irritating this map would be if played straight, because enemy ballistae are not fun. My own ballista, on the other hand, is very fun, and he does a few minor things such as chipping down an enemy. Meanwhile, I'm delaying Laurentia's movement on this turn until the end of the turn, and this is because if she moves early, she faces several attacks from enemy archers, one of which has an overwatch, so between them they get 3 shots on her, and they 3-hit KO her, so despite the fact that they're not very accurate, it's still not ideal for Laurentia to face all of that fire. Because of this, we leave Laurentia until all of the enemies have taken their actions, and so she only faces 1 shot from the overwatch, and that is all. This way, she ends up only taking 2 attacks in the entire map, which she is perfectly able to survive. This method was the best way I found to get her to the set point intact, because there is actually a 3rd enemy archer hidden in the forests in the lower right corner of the map. So if I tried to deviate in that direction, she would still take more attacks than I am comfortable with her taking. Now, you may have noticed that I deployed her near the back of my initial deployment, but this is completely fine, because even if she is deployed right at the frontmost position, and she moves her full movement every turn, she is exactly 1 tile short of seizing on turn 3 regardless. So it is much better to put her at the back, and have my lower movement training projects at the front so that they can reach the enemies more quickly. Enid picks up a kill on this turn. This kill isn't quite sufficient to level her up, but I think that's probably good because this is a pretty frustrating place to try rigging her magic level up. And she now only needs a handful of experience points to gain a level, so I can get that on her at a more convenient time at my leisure at this point. My other training project, Sylvis, is at level 9.51 at this point, so she's still a couple of kills away from leveling, and that's probably going to have to wait until chapter 10 now. Enid randomly gets crippled here, but it's okay because she is not in a position to be captured by any of the enemies, and she won't be because we're going to be finishing this map on the next turn. So she's going to have to sit out the last side quest of this chapter, but she will be back for chapter 10. And Ruby manages to pick up a level. Unfortunately, it's a little less than I was hoping for, but she does manage to gain 1 point of weapon rank, and that's good enough for me at this point, since I didn't want to bother rigging her too drastically on this map of all places. And that's pretty much it. Laurentia is going to move directly up because she is now under some pretty severe threat, and she ceases to complete the map in 4 turns. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.